Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is how to beat burnout. So many of us just drive and drive and push, and it's easy to get burnt out by just expending more energy than you actually replenish. So we're going to look at what it takes. We're going to look at the dynamics of burnout and what it takes to make it a thing of the past. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, loved by God. Good morning, Rosalind. So wonderful to have you with us this morning. And welcome to everyone else who's joining us. And let's talk about burnout. Burnout's a thing. It's a real thing where you just get to the point where you can't put another foot in front of the other. And I think it entails or it includes sort of an emotional state of just done, flat. And we can actually prevent burnout. However, it might mean recalibrating some values. It might mean reassessing the way that we approach life, even in a foundational way. So burnout, I believe, and by the way, the stuff that I say, I want you to know it's not like it's truth. It's that these are hypotheses. Try things on, see if it resonates with you, see if it feels true to you. Don't just accept what anybody just tells you. Feel into whether that's an applicable truth for you, if it resonates. But what I'm looking at with burnout is that I tend to believe that it's a function of this do mentality, where we become human doings rather than human beings. And we push ourselves and drive ourselves and force ourselves to be machine producers, that we're just valuing ourselves and our lives pretty strictly based on what we do in the world, what we accomplish, the things that we accomplish. rather than from a space of what lights us up, what inspires us, what gives us that life and vitality and spark. And one of the antidotes, or one of the ways that we can mitigate burnout, or maybe bypass it completely, is by listening to ourselves, taking care of ourselves, giving ourselves rest. It's funny because it seems counterintuitive, certainly, but I found that when I was uninspired or overwhelmed with work, or feeling blocked in trying to create something creative, or just feeling super pressured, rather than white knuckling it, overcoming, just powering through, that I made out a whole lot better when I went and did something that nurtured me. So, for instance, when I was feeling anxious about business building, for example, rather than pushing through and forcing myself to make more calls or whatever, I would go for a walk and take pictures of flowers because taking pictures of flowers is something that just nurtures my soul. And what's remarkable about that, when we allow ourselves to care for ourselves in a way that we nurture our heart and soul, there's a renewal that comes about as a result of that. And rather than this notion of increasing the pressure on ourselves, releasing that pressure gives us an opportunity to take a deep breath and to come back to ourselves. When there's so much to do, the inclination is to say, no, I can't relax. No, I can't meditate. No, I can't do this, that, or the other thing because I have so much to do. I have to do this. I have to do that. And the pressure of all those have tos, it takes us further and further and further away from the state of being that allows our lives to flow, that allows our lives to emerge, to flow is really the best word, because we have the capacity, if we cultivate it, certainly, we have the capacity to be in partnership with life, rather than trying to dominate it, rather than trying to control it. We have the capacity to be in the flow with it, to be collaborating with it, to be dancing with it, to be... I think the idea of dancing is one of the best, right? To be in flow. There's a give and take in dancing, even if we're not dancing with a partner, even if the partner is the music, right? We're dancing with the music. That's kind of dancing with life. Life feeds us when we do that. And what happens? Good morning, Sue. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. So for the workaholics among us, oftentimes we just get crazed by the vast list of things to do and this sense of responsibility to get all this stuff done. And what happens, and at least it's happened for me, and I imagine it's happened for you as well, is that the more we push, the more resistance there is. The harder it is to get things done or to get things to flow, to get ideas to flow. And when we can find a way to breathe, to give time to the breath, even, maybe take 5 minutes to meditate, even that can shift the entire dynamic of this production mentality, this go, 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 drive, 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 push, push, push. We can step back from that, breathe, connect, give ourselves the gift of something that nurtures our heart. When we do that, the whole energy is shifted, and it's like releasing a log jam from a river, and then the river can flow. And again, it seems counterintuitive when there's time pressure and production pressure that we exert upon ourselves, and that may be there through outside demands as well. But when we relieve that pressure, we can allow for the flow again. So if you think about a hose, a hose that's unimpeded flows, but then maybe you crimp it up and there's all this pressure and it's squeezing the hose and it's making the aperture of the hose smaller and smaller and smaller, so less and less and less can get through. When we can take a breath and ease and release the pressure on the hose, then more flows through, and we end up being able to accomplish more in less time without the pressure and the intensity and the pushing, the domination, the control, the forcing. It's the distinction between power versus force. That force is this kind of dominating thing. It's overriding our heart and soul and being. It's overriding our life force. It's squeezing that hose and constricting it to the point where just bare trickles can get through. And if we do that long enough, what we're doing is we're cutting off our life supply. We're cutting off the supply of our vitality and the source of our energy. We're literally cutting ourselves off from the source of that energy. And so again, it may seem counterintuitive to step back, take a break, walk away, change the environment, go for a walk, go see something else, take a break, stand up, do some stretches, do some exercise, do meditation, just like do something that feeds you. And then you can come back renewed to a different energy. Don't step back into the same rat race, because the truth about pressure is that it doesn't exist from outside, regardless of somebody saying, I really need you to do this now. I need you to do this now. Pressure is only resides within us if we choose to take on that urgency from someone else, or how we choose to take on that urgency. Because it's possible to take on that urgency in a way that ignites us rather than pressures us, rather than constrains, constricts, compresses, pushes us down. We can sort of, rather than being oppressed, we can rise to the challenge. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this on. Let's get in the flow. Let's see how we can create that. We don't have to feel like, oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I don't, because that's the constriction. We can instead sort of source an expansion, source an upliftment. We do have these choices, right? And when we do that, it's not pressure as much as it's a challenge. We can take it on in that way by managing our inner state, by managing our beingness. And instead, where burnout comes from, and overwhelm and pressure, is that we're not managing our beingness, we're managing our doing. And when we manage our doing, when we try to manage our doing, what happens is we separate from ourselves. We lose the connection with, or loosen at least, the connection with what it is that is that spark that allows us to be so productive, that allows us to be joyful, that allows us to be energized. And so that connection, it's kind of like having something plugged into a socket with a torn wire or a faulty plug, or it's not all the way plugged in. And that's what this push for doingness does to us, because we end up becoming robotic, where you're then disconnected, unplugged from the energy source. We just go through the motions. It's like, okay, nobody home, just doing. And in the process of that, because we're dissociated, we make mistakes. We encounter all kinds of obstacles. And the idea is to learn to flow and dance with the music. And sometimes to change the music. Sometimes we just get to change the music. And if we do get to a place of burnout, it's important, actually, way before we get to that point. But it's important to be willing to nurture ourselves, to experience the experience. Because so much energy is expended resisting our emotions. So I'm not going to feel angry. I'm not going to feel hurt. I'm not going to feel sad. I'm not going to feel less than. I'm not going to feel whatever it is. I'm not going to feel. I'm not going to feel frustrated. Well, if we let ourselves feel it, the feeling actually passes. All the energy expended. So many people I've spoken to have spent a lot of energy holding up this facade of everything's fine, everything's great, I'm not going to let anybody see what's going on inside. And keeping this facade all the time. I can't let anybody see who I really am. If they find out, takes so much energy. Or I don't trust myself, so I don't trust myself, so I have to keep myself in check all the time. I'm going to be hyper vigilant all the time. Takes a lot of energy. When we can gift ourselves the opportunity to feel what we feel when we feel it, it moves through as energy. We don't have to make stories about it. What happens is we keep closing off this hose of energy and of life. We just like fold that thing and crimp it and nothing can get through. And really, we are, it's kind of like we are that channel for life to move through. And sometimes there's sand in the water, and sometimes there's pebbles, and like sometimes the water moves more quickly and sometimes it moves more slowly, and we get to just allow it to process through. But when we crimp that hose, that's when we experience burnout and we experience overwhelm, because we've closed off the source of our vitality. And we get so wrapped up in the have tos. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have this whole list of stuff to do. And we tend to think that the more pressure we put on ourselves, the more frantic we get about it, the better we're going to be able to produce. And it's not true. To be able to relax into doing one thing at a time, putting our attention, being present, things flow more readily that way. And we take better care of ourselves. We remember to breathe. Being tense all the time, being in this hypervigilant readiness, pressure, pushing, it's a lot of energy to hold that tension. What if we were able to just relax and allow we're going to do this. We're going to get done what we get done. We're going to do what we do. Let's just relax into it. And this is actually something that I notice with physical sensations as well. That oftentimes I experience like these shooting sensations through my body in different places. And rather than brace against it, rather than resist it, I find that breathing into those sensations, allowing them, lets them pass. The more I brace against it, the longer it persists. Thank you. Sue says, good comment. So true, right? The more we resist, the more something persists. It's crazy that happens, because we would think if we resist something, it's going to go away, right? But it doesn't. It doesn't. When we resist it, what are we doing? We're affirming it. We're confirming it. We're reinforcing it, because the resistance is defined by that thing. So when we say don't whatever, what are we doing? We're reinforcing the thing that we're saying don't about. And that's what resistance is. So if we can find a way to flow, if we can find a way to release the resistance, to relax into whatever it is that's going on, to be more present, then we can allow the flow in greater ease. And things will take less time and we will get less burnt out. We will be nurturing ourselves because we'll be maintaining our connection to the very source of life and energy that feeds us. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have this time together and to share these musings on what it is to be human and how do we do this thing? How do we be this thing? And it's always such a pleasure and privilege. So until next time, so much love.